My project is called Feng Shui because I started the project out of my fascination for my own Chinese culture, and that's where the word Feng Shui comes from. A big part of Feng Shui is yin and yang, which is maybe more known, and that means seeking the balance between elements, between people and nature. Here I took some pictures of when I went on vacation when visiting my grandparents in China. And it was really nice to walk around in the park not too far away from my grandparents because I really felt the nature, the harmony and the feng shui of the place between the mountains. Also very known are the Chinese gardens, which later the Japanese gardens took inspiration from. In these Chinese gardens there are a lot of contrast between the elements like the massivity of the rocks and the water. Also, when we look at the bottom right picture, they do not show the whole garden at once, but they make little sceneries like a story. Here we have an old Chinese painting which shows the harmony, the balance and the feng shui between the people and nature. And it tells a story like the Chinese garden, like to tells its story by using its sceneries and guiding the people who walk around it with its sceneries. So I like to bring back that harmony I talked about. I like to bring back the feng shui and the balance to the Campine Plateau, because the Campine Plateau is now out of balance because of the drought problem. So my project location is Pixel E8, which is between Genk, Bilse and Zoeterwoude. Here I've made the necessary analysis of the place, where it's very prominent that the Albert Canal literally cuts through my pixel in the middle, which divides the place into a north and a south part. And mainly in the north part is where the drought problem is located. On this map, I indicated some areas that could be interesting and I potentially want to work with, like the forest stables, or the watching tower, or the statue of Maria, and of course the Albert Canal with the road next to it. To quickly sketch what the problem is on the Campine Plateau is that the densely pine forest acts like a plastic layer that prohibits good water infiltration in the ground. And on the hillside, the water just flows too quickly and doesn't give enough time to let the water infiltrate into the ground. So thinking from the idea of Feng Shui, I like to dig up the soil and give it back to the landscape as a hill to make a hilly landscape. This way the dense pine forest would be thinned out and I would create space for ponds for water infiltration. So this is a concept drawing where the transformation on the plateau is shown. So right now there's a dense pine forest and I want to transform that into a more wide, open, less dense space for ponds and make a kind of water garden through the landscape. On the plateau, I want to create these ponds in such a way and the hills to blend them into each other and make kind of a guidance of where people could walk through. So the vegetation, the trees and the water kind of guides the people through the landscape. And here with a concept drawing for the transformation on the hill, where I want to make the ponds in a way where it slows the water down. So this way the ponds are formed into swales where the water is slowed down and it has more time to let the water infiltrate into the ground. So here I show the swales how they are placed, and when one swale is overflown it can flow to the next swale that's a level underneath it. And between those swales I want to create a path that leads the people on top of the plateau. So first I want to thin out the forest into a less dense pine forest, and then I can create those ponds and hills by digging up the soil. And later I want to add resting areas at the edge of the Campine Plateau. And at last I want to make it more open for camping. So when we combine those layers together, we have the master plan, In dotted line, the route is shown where it leads up to the plateau, and on the edge of the plateau, the resting areas are located. And in purple are the swills shown, and in blue, the ponds on the flat surfaces, like the plateau. This model shows how I want to create a path on top of the hill between the swills by using wooden walk bridges that acts like an introduction for the people that want to get on top of the Campine Plateau. To think again from the idea of Feng Shui, I want to make a resting area that is provided for people who put up an effort to get on top of the plateau by using the walk bridges. So in this case, I have pavilions at the edge of the Campine Plateau where people have two views from it. The views are made like sceneries, like the sceneries that are made in the Chinese garden. And the pavilion is made in such a form because it is more integrated into the landscape and acts more like a hill, and it opens up when you walk into it. After everything is done, this picture shows a possible scenario of how it could look like the thin out forest and the stepping stones on top of the water. So the people are guided in this landscape by the way how the trees and the ponds, hills are created and placed. To end my presentation, I have a picture of a painting made by Emil van Doren that shows the heathland it used to be on the Campine Plateau. I really like this picture because this really shows the harmony and the feng shui of the Campine Plateau when it was still in balance.